All right, so in this section we're talking about unit conversions. This is the second half of lesson 1. And I first just wanted to illustrate the importance of why we need to be able to convert between different types of units. So in real life, we need to be able to communicate properly with other people. And part of that communication is communicating proper units. And there's so many examples, if you look throughout history, of problems between conversions between English and metric units. And because of those problems, it's caused, really severe accidents. This is a less serious example, but in December of 2003, the Tokyo Space Mountain roller coaster at Tokyo Disneyland derailed when an axle broke. And after they did some investigations, they found that the axle was the wrong size simply because the design wasn't properly converted between English and metric units. And so you have to be really careful. I mean, in the medical world, there's a lot of different types of units used for drugs, and in the engineering world, there's a lot of conversions between English and metric units. So I just really I can't emphasize enough to you that units are important. So the next few examples, we're going to be talking about some different ways to convert between units. All right, for this first example, we're going to convert 0.00513 meters into centimeters, and we're also going to, I'm going to show you how to do this using dimensional analysis. And if you remember from your PowerPoint that you saw on iLearn, it talked about unit factors and how a unit factor is just a ratio that basically is a conversion factor between meters and centimeters. Okay, so first you need to know what that conversion factor is. So we know that there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter, so let's just go ahead and write that out. So there's 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. So that's the conversion factor that we're going to be using. So we simply start out with what we know. You always start with the information that's given to you. So we start out with 0.0513 meters. And now we're going to multiply this by its conversion factor to convert from meters to centimeters. Okay, so I'm just going to do this in another color. So we'll put meters on the denominator so that our meters cancel out. So we know that in 1 meter, we have 100 centimeters. So this now is our conversion factor. So we're using this to convert between meters and centimeters. So our meters cancel out, and if we do this calculation, we'll do 0.00513 times 100 centimeters, and if we do that calculation, we'll get 5.13 centimeters. Okay, so let's just talk about sig figs briefly. So in this, in the information that we're given, 0.00513 meters, we have 2 leading zeros. Those are not considered significant figures. So we start off with 3 significant figures, and remember that conversion factors are considered to have unlimited significant figures. So you're not going to worry about the conversion factor when determining your final number of significant figures. So because we started with 3 significant figures, we will end with 3 significant figures. Okay, so for the second problem, it's a little bit more complicated because we have more than one conversion happening. So here it's asking us to convert 5 inches into millimeters. And we know that there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch and 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So we're going to need to use both of these conversion factors to convert from inches to millimeters. Okay, so we will start out, and we always start off with the information that we know. And so in this case, we know our inches. So we're going to start off with 5.00 inches. And we're going to multiply that by our conversion factor. We know that in 1 inch, we have 2.54 centimeters. So remember that when you're doing a conversion factor, the reason why we can do this is because 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. So it's essentially like you're multiplying this number by 1. So you're converting from inches into centimeters. So we could do this in 2 steps, or we could do this all in 1 step. So if we do it in 2 steps, I can show you how that looks. We'll simply multiply 5.0 inches by 2.54 centimeters and divide it by 1. And when we do that, we get 12.7 centimeters. And we started with 3 sig figs, so we're going to end with 3 sig figs. And then if we do it in the next step, we can say now we have 12.7 centimeters, and our conversion factor here is that we have 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So remember, you're always going to want to set this up so that your units cancel out. And when we do this calculation, 12.7 times 10, we get 127 millimeters. So that's your final answer. This is your final answer. So I personally like to do this all in 1 step. I think it's much easier. So I'm going to show you what that looks like briefly. So you can start off with, again, what you know. So we know that we have 5.00 inches. And then we can multiply that by our first conversion factor to convert from inches to centimeters. So we have 1 inch in 2.54 centimeters. And then we can just keep on going with this calculation. And now we can do our next unit conversion. We know that there are, again, 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So again, we put our unit that we want to cancel out, which is centimeters, in the denominator. So we'll say 1 centimeter. In 1 centimeter, there are 10 millimeters. And so now our inches are canceling out, our centimeters are canceling out, and if we do this calculation, you can just do 5 times 2.54 times 10, divided by 1, divided by 1. The order of operations don't really matter because this is all multiplication and division. So if we do this, then we simply get 5 times 2.54 times 10 is equal to 127 millimeters. So if it was me personally doing this problem, I think that it's a much superior way to just do everything in 1 step because it's simple, and if you're just plugging everything into your calculator, you don't have to worry about rounding errors along the way. So I would really recommend doing it this way. But if you're one of those people that you really like to see every step along the way, you can break it up into different steps, but I would recommend not doing that. Okay, so this next problem is a really typical conversion problem going from metric system to the English system. It's really common now in the age of the internet to look up a recipe for anything and it to come from an international website, and it might be in the metric system rather than the English unit, so you'll need to convert to be able to do the recipe with units that you're comfortable with. Okay, so in this problem, you inherit a recipe for cookies from your German grandmother, but because it's a German recipe, again, everything's in metric units. So here we know that we need 950 grams of butter. And so we need to convert from 950 grams into pounds, because pounds, you can typically buy butter by the pound, so you can determine how much butter you need for this recipe. Okay, so again, we always want to start with what we know. So here, we know that we have 950 grams of butter. So this is what we need to start with what we know. So we have 950 grams of butter. And again, we're going to use our unit conversions. So our conversion from our metric system to English system is kilograms to pounds. So our first step is that we need to convert 950 grams to kilograms. So if you remember that from when you learned about the different metric units, that kilo, that prefix means that there's 1 times 10 to the third. So in 1 kilogram, there's 1 times 10 to the third grams, or 1,000 grams. So we're just going to put 1,000 grams in the denominator so that our grams cancel out, and 1 kilogram in the numerator. There's 1,000 grams and 1 kilogram. And next, we're going to convert from kilograms to pounds. So in 1 kilogram, there are 2.2 pounds. Okay, so again, we can just go ahead and do this conversion. Our grams cancel out, our kilograms cancel out, and we're left in pounds. And remember, the order of operations doesn't matter, so you can just simply put in your calculator 950 divided by 1,000 times 2.2. And if you do that, you'll get that your answer is 2.1 pounds of butter. All right, and again, we started off with 2 significant figures, so we need to end with 2 significant figures. Okay, for this last example, I want to do something a little bit more challenging. So let's just look at this problem. So it says you're taking a road trip with your family to Canada and you've run out of gas, and your nearest gas station is charging 138 cents per liter, and you have a 16-gallon tank. How many dollars are required for you to fill up your tank? Okay, so in this problem, we need to convert from the metric to the English units. We need to go from liters to gallons. And we also need to convert cents to dollars. So we need to do two different conversions. And it's really important that we always start with what we know. So here we are given 2 pieces of information. We're given the piece of information that we know the price of the gas, which is 138 cents per liter. And we also know the volume of our tank, which is 16 gallons. So I think it makes sense. You could actually start with either of these 2 values. I think it makes sense to start off with your 16-gallon tank and convert into the amount of money required. So we have to convert this to liters first, and then we can use this rate of what the price is per liter to convert it to our actual price. So let's just see how we would do this problem. Okay, so we'd start off with our 16-gallon tank. And if you look on your conversion reference sheet, you'll find that there are 3.79 liters in 1 gallon. So we're going to need that conversion factor. So we'll put gallons in the denominator so that they cancel out. So 1 gallon is 3.79 liters. And now we can use this price per liter to convert into the money that's required. So we can say that we have 138 cents is required for every 1 liter that we purchase. So now liters cancel out, gallons cancel out. Now we're in money. So now we're in cents. So now we just need to convert to dollars. And we all know that there are 100 cents. We're talking about US currency here in $1. Okay, so now our gallons cancel out, our liters cancel out, cents cancel out. And if we do this calculation, we get that our answer should be $83, $83.7, so $83.70. And again, remember that we need to look at our significant figures. We have 3 significant figures here and 3 here. So our final answer should also have 3 significant figures. So, from this problem, we were able to figure out that even though this price seems pretty cheap, $1.38 per liter, because liters are much smaller than gallons, this is actually going to cost us quite a bit of money to fill up this tank.